Hi, everyone. Thank you, Megan, for introducing me. You covered most of what I was already going to say. I have my whole class. Okay. I will try. I've a few different screens in front of me. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me just fine. Am I talking loud enough? Okay. And to make sure everybody can see the poster that I am hopefully sharing. Okay, perfect. That's just going to make sure I don't forget anything while I'm talking. So as Megan said, I'm a student at Red Rocks Community College. I am doing the water quality management degree. I graduated with my associate's degree last semester while I was doing the work study here. This semester, pretty much next week, I will be graduating with my bachelor's degree in water quality management as well. The difference between last semester and this semester is the fact that this semester is an internship, so it's counting as those course credits. 2 semesters total. I think it ends up being like 10 or so months worth of work here at Riverwatch, which has been really good. I got introduced into this internship from Chelsea Campbell, who is the water quality management lead faculty at Red Rocks Community College. She got the information from Chris. I believe Chris's class is listening in too. So Chelsea got it from him. I took his class as well, and then it finally made it to me. So that's kind of how this happened. Yeah, my interest for water quality in general before I started school actually came from my occupational specialty. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was a water support technician for 4 years. So I would actually do water purification, water distribution, water, just in general, water support for just about anybody that needed it wherever they wanted me to go. So that's where that kind of interest sparked from. And then I got out and I realized I could go and I could do not only an associate's, but a bachelor's degree with Red Rocks. And I was like, that is just an amazing deal. So I decided to do that. And it's worked out pretty well. Yeah. So an intern assignment that I am doing to graduate has a lot to do with my course connections. It also involves how this work here will help me with any future jobs other than just making amazing connections and getting to know everybody. Some really good course connections I've found throughout the variety that I've taken with the associates and the bachelor's. I would have to start out with just water quality management 119, which is a basic water quality analysis course. The connections that I made with the things that I do between the daily, monthly, annual tasks here would have to be our unknown solutions, actually making the solutions, prepping the solutions, and of course using the lab equipment to do so. Pretty general stuff in that case. The analysis methods that we use, like the titrations for the alkalinity, for the hardness, and then the BOD, as well as the meters, the variety of meters that we have, the pH meters, the total dissolved solid meter, the TDS meter that we have. I used those in water quality management 119 at Red Rocks Community College, except for the titrations weren't we didn't have the fanciest equipment, but the concept is the same. We use the same methods. So there's the connection there that I really enjoyed. Definitely one of my favorites. One of my favorite courses too at Red Rocks. The second course would have to be Water Quality Management 421. That's the Environmental Sampling and Containment course. The connections that I found with that were the collection process. The collection process that the Riverwatch volunteers do, the collection that we do, here for our for the couple sites that we're in charge of. And then it goes also into the metals, alkalinity, hardness, pH, temperature, DO, nutrient, all those collections, which ends up being a little bit of a laundry list once you're out there. I mean, so many different samples. You have to bring a caddy out to carry your samples back in. In the class, I remember, I don't think we did the metal sample specifically, but I do remember collecting just the average sample to do the alkalinity, hardness, test pH, and then we did BOD. Except for we didn't have the larger BOD bottles that Riverwatch uses. We had from the Hatch or Hotch kits, the smaller BOD bottles. Those were the ones that we used in my class, in the 421 class. But I mean, it's the same process. So all of that knowledge was very useful. Then we have my third class would be 428, which is the water data management and analysis class. This is one of the classes I'm actually finishing up this semester. It's a 400 level class, so it's pretty tough. It's a little heavy there. The connection I found though is just all of the data. It starts with the raw data, which is what the Riverwatch volunteers, I consider that what they're collecting to be raw data. You're standing out on the side of the river, you know, you got your waders on, you're in the water and you're collecting it and you're writing it down on paper right there. And then you bring it back to be entered into the database. The volunteers can do it, or I end up doing quite a bit of it, along with verifying it. Everything gets entered, then everything gets verified, and then I'm pretty sure it goes through another cycle of verification just to be sure. I don't do that part though. And then it's held on to in this database, and that's where like this is where it gets cool, because you're changing raw data into information. It's not just, yeah, the river was, you know, 7 pH, 8.34 pH. It's like, okay, like that's just one piece. When you get a collection over, you know, geotime is what Megan loves to call it during training. When you get that consolidation of information, it opens up the opportunity to have analysis for something like trends. And without that, you wouldn't be able to see it, because you need a collection of data to provide wholesome information. And this being in the 428 class, that's one of the things that we touched on, is grabbing those big, just bucketfuls of information and then manipulating them to allow them to tell you something, tell you a story, answer your questions. I mean, and that's most of the time what scientists do. They ask all these questions and then they go on an adventure to find the answers. And I realized during the training event, actually, the 2021 training event, that the manuals and the hit lists that we did, this thing is just chocked full of like the tiniest connections. I only had to pick 3, and that's just as much as could fit on my poster here. But there's so many different classes that have the smallest connections. A bonus one that's not on my poster, is actually 345, which is, I think, Principles of Hydrology. And we spend a whole week on stream segmentation obviously for identification processes. The same activity, it's the same thing, same learning. I actually learned it the week before I left for the weekend training. So it was kind of funny, because I was like, I learned this just last week. Like, this is the best review you can ask for. But I found a few different things just chock full in the hit list. So making those smaller connections with the 3 big ones that I have on my poster was pretty good. Let's see, what else do I have on here? I just have some background. I talked about in my paper, and then on my poster, I talked about seasonal priorities, because it changes kind of what we have going on in the office. Like we won't, yeah, it just changes what we're doing in the office. It also changes what I end up doing as far as like shipping and packing and sending things out to volunteers. So I mentioned that in my paper because it doesn't seem, to me, it seems unique because what we're doing is connected to what the streams and rivers are doing versus other, I don't know, water quality positions maybe where they're a little bit more focused on the calendar year versus here we change and we alter because the streams are changing. Let's see. And then I just break down all the other tasks that I kind of do between every day, monthly, and yearly. Let's see. Those are pretty much my course connections. That's a huge chunk of what I've had to talk about for my internship. What I also mentioned were the things that weren't necessarily covered in any of my water quality courses. The things or the elements that I could only get from this internship. The big thing is an element of creativity is the way I phrased it. So I gained that through the fundraiser. That was our 30-year fundraiser this semester, a focus on this semester. It wasn't priority last semester. But I end up doing, gosh, like marketing / advertising for the program for the fundraiser. And that's not covered anywhere in school. So I did a couple social media posts for all our social medias. Be sure to follow us on all of those if you haven't already. Maybe you'll see some stuff that I actually designed. And then the other thing it's actually out in my car, but I designed a pH for our pH sample bottles. I actually designed a little holder for them. That way, when you're doing your pH sampling with the probe urinalysis, they don't tip over or anything like that. So that's just another element of creativity where no one teaches you to do that in school. It's one of those things that you learn when you're here and it's just going on. It's happening. This is what you can do, and then you act on it. Another element that wasn't necessarily covered in school would be like the element of teaching and training others. I knew it would come up a little bit, but it was definitely present this semester because of the training event. I am a student, so I expected only to be a student. I didn't expect to be, oh, hey, so you're actually gonna participate and teach some of these other students. So that threw me off a little bit, but it ended up working really well because you have to know the information really well in order to teach it, to pass it on. And as a college student, I should be able to teach to high school, to middle school, and to, all the ones that are a little bit lower. I don't know if I could teach Megan anything. She's really smart. But there's still definitely a
You've taught me so much, Christine.
I try. But just being a teacher, and then in a way, I think I mentioned it as setting an example for other volunteers that this knowledge, although we're teaching it to middle schools and high schools, I'm learning about it in college. That's just amazing. Like, this is an amazing opportunity to learn what I'm currently learning and I have to pay for right now. Sure, you have to pay a little bit for some of this stuff in Riverwatch, but the knowledge is good. It's consistent and it's reliable just throughout. Those were the big things that I talked about for my internship. I was definitely going to leave it open for any questions, or if anybody can't see my pictures, I can explain what's going on in them.